Alright, now let's talk about setting up the manager station. You will take the only 10-sided die that's in the game, that goes over to the manager station. He will use that if a Prohibition Agent card comes out of the event deck to determine whether or not the club has been raided. There are 10 of these historical event cards, and they look very unique compared to all of the other event cards. As you can see, they look like a newspaper. There's 10, one for each year from 1920 to 1929. Whatever scenario you are playing, you will look in the top right-hand corner of the newspaper to determine the year. Find the corresponding newspaper or historical event that applies to the scenario you're playing. Let's say we're playing scenario 1, which is 1920. This is the 1920 card. So we're going to take one of these. The rest of these you can return to the box. They're not going to be used in this scenario. You will take your event deck, shuffle it up. You will take the top 10 cards off the event deck and take your one historical event card, shuffle it into those 10. So that way your historical event should happen within the first 10 turns of the game, if the game goes 10 turns. And then return that to the top of the deck. Set it next to your manager player mat. I don't know if it's going to be in focus or not, but just know that you place it to the left of your player mat. The other cards that you have remaining are your club upgrades and your staff upgrades. Each scenario, you will select one of these club upgrades to aim for. You're basically trying to add more amenities to your club as you go through the campaign from 1920 to 1929. In scenario 1, which is 1920, it's a very vanilla scenario to introduce you to the rules and mechanics of the game, and your first club upgrade is automatically selected for you, which is the business license. This is the required structural upgrade that you must shoot for at the beginning of the 1920 scenario. The cost is $10. So your goal for scenario 1 will be the cost, the operating cost to do business, which is located in the rulebook. For 1920, it's $20, plus your selected structural upgrade, which in this case is the business license, which is $10. So you know that for the 1920 scenario, you need to earn $30. Each wooden nickel is $1. So by the time your patron deck is exhausted, you need to have at least 30 coins in your club coffers to pay for both the business license and the cost of doing business. Anything that you have left over is profit. So at the end of this scenario, let's say you had 33 wooden nickels. 10 of it would be used to procure your business license. The other 20 would be your business cost. You would have 3 coins left over. Any coins that you have left over, any profit, at the start of a scenario, let's say now we're playing, 1922 or something like that. You would have already had your business license. So now you would be able to select an upgrade from whatever's left. And the cost would be down at the bottom. Just let me turn that around. The cost would be down at the bottom. That's what you would add to your business cost for that scenario. You'll select one of those. Let's just say you're going to go for the new band instruments. The rest of them get moved off to the side, except for the structural upgrades that you've purchased in previous scenarios if you're playing the campaign. Then if you have any money left over, you can hire staff members. You can take out the Opulent staff deck, look at all the different types of upgrades that are available, and purchase them. Now, there is a specific rule that comes into play when purchasing staff upgrades. In order to hire a staff member, you must have at least one of these structural upgrades that correspond to the station where that staff member resides at. So, for example, in order to hire the cocktail waitress or the cigarette girl, which goes to the bar, you would already have to have in play from a previous scenario a bar upgrade, which could be the ice chest, the bar upgrades, or the sliding panels. So if you had one of these in play, then you would be able to hire one bartender staff. If you had two of these in play, and if you had enough money, you could hire up to two of the bartender staff. If you had, let's say, the sliding panels and the gold stanchions, if you had the sliding panels and the gold stanchions, you have a bar upgrade and a doorman upgrade, meaning you could hire one bar staff. You could hire one of these ladies if you have enough money, or you could hire one of the door staff, or one of each. Again, just depending on how much profit you have left over rolling over from the other scenarios. You will also notice that between the staff members that you can hire and the upgrades that you can purchase, there are a number of stars, from 1 to a half a star. Those represent the prestige of the Opulent. The prestige is a 1 to 5 scale. You can be a 1-star club, a 2-star club, all the way up to 5 stars. Prestige plays a part in two different ways in the game. At the beginning of a scenario, when the doorman is setting his station, the patron deck, you start off with 25 random patrons that cannot be celebrities, plus an additional 5 patrons for each level of prestige that you have. So if you are, let's say, a 2-star club, you would add an additional 10 patrons, random patrons. If you're a 2-star club, you automatically get 25 patrons just for being in business. You're a 2-star club, so you're going to get an additional 10 patrons. And since you're a 2-star club, you would take the 1-star and the 2-star celebrity, add all of those to your patron deck, the doorman would, shuffle them together, and that would consist of your patron deck at the beginning of the game. That's one way that prestige comes into play. The second is determining if your club gets rated, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But for now, just know that prestige is used at the beginning of the game to set your patron deck, and during the game when specific event deck cards are drawn. Okay, so now let's go over what the manager can do during his turn, or what the manager turn looks like. So when it's a manager's turn, the first thing he will do is he will draw the top card from the event deck. He will read out loud the card and resolve whatever action it is. After the action on the event card has been resolved, then the manager has 2 other actions that he will be able to do during his turn. And here's a summary of all of the different things that a manager can do, and I'll kind of go over some of them briefly with you. If you've watched the other videos, you already kind of know how the mechanics work for those different stations, and we'll just kind of go over how the manager can impact the club as a whole. For one action, the manager can help out at the bar by restocking one item, well, not one item, one station at a bar. So for example, let's say the bartender is out of ice. The manager can say, for one of my actions, I'm going to restock your ice. And then the bartender would be able to restock all of the ice that's at the bar. And that would be one of the manager's actions. Another thing that the manager can do is he can prepare a drink at the bar. How he prepares a drink at the bar is he would assign resources to the patron or patrons that he's serving drinks for. And if you've watched the bartender video, you know how that works. And then the manager would use 1 die to prepare drinks. So he could prepare up to 2 mixed drinks, which would have a difficulty of 6, possibly up to 6 beers, which have a difficulty of 1. Just depends on what number he rolls. But just know that he could basically use, for one action, he can purchase one of the bartender's 6-sided dice to try to prepare as many drinks as he wants to. One of the other actions that the manager can do is he can schmooze with any patron anywhere in the club. He can schmooze with the patrons that are on the dance floor, that are at the bar, that are in line at the door. And it has the same standard rule of schmoozing that the bartender and the doorman has. For one action, he can take 2 coins to add them to one patron, or 1 coin to add to 2 patrons. Now, since the manager has 2 actions on his turn, he could actually spend his whole turn doing nothing but schmoozing, adding 2 coins to 2 patrons, 2 coins to 1 patron and 1 to 2, or hit 4 different patrons and smooze them each for 1 coin. The other thing the manager can do, and I actually forgot to go over this in the setup. Another part of the setup is the alliance card. You can be aligned with either the Italian family or the Irish family. How this comes into play in the game: every time the bartender restocks either beer or liquor, which were the yellow and orange cylinders, you will have to pay a certain cost for each restock, depending on whether you're aligned with the Irish family or the Italian family. So for example, if you are aligned with the Italian family, every time the bartender declared he wanted to restock beer or whiskey, it would cost the club $1 out of the club coffers. If you are aligned with the Irish family, every time you wanted to restock beer or whiskey, it would cost the club $2 for each restock. Not each item at that station. So like there's 6 beers at the bartender station. If the manager wanted to restock beer, it would be, if you were aligned with the Irish, $2. It wouldn't be 12, which is 6 units of 2. So, going back to the manager, for one action, the manager can declare, you know what, we're going to switch from the Irish family to the Italian family. That's another action that he can do. And for more rules on how the different mobs come into play in the Opulent, feel free to download the PDF rulebook that we have on our Kickstarter page. It will go into a little bit more about how the mobsters and the alliances play. I just wanted to briefly touch base on that. Okay, some of the other manager actions that he can do. For one action, he can use 2 of the doorman's dice in the same manner that the doorman does, trying to work to get people in the door. So he could use one action to purchase 2 dice, or he could use both of his actions to purchase 4 dice. The only thing the manager cannot do with the doorman dice, if you remember, the doorman was actually allowed to drop one of these dice to smooze with a client that was at the door. The manager cannot do that. If the manager wants to smooze, he has to use one action to actually smooze clients. He couldn't use one action to purchase 2 doorman dice and then say, I'm going to smooze twice at the door. If that makes sense, it would be basically gaming the system. So one of the actions that the manager can do is he can request a song. When he does so, basically what he's doing is he's eliminating the top song in the queue and pushing the second one up for one action. So let's say that this was the current setup over at the band station. The 7/4, if you recall, was a little difficult for the band to play. He has to play 7 beats just to move one patron off of the dance floor. The 4/4 is a little bit easier to play, so if the manager wanted to, he could say, for one action, I'm going to request a song. That would bump this one out of the queue. This one would move up. You would draw the next song that's supposed to be in queue to fall here, and that's another action that the manager can do during his turn. For another action, another thing that the manager can do is purchase a lookout. Some of the event cards give you the opportunity to purchase a lookout card. And I am looking out for a lookout card right now in the event deck. Okay, let's say that this was the event card that you drew on this turn. For one action, the manager can pay the $2 fee associated with retaining this lookout. Basically, what a lookout does is it allows you to offset a federal prohibition agent card. And those are the worst cards in the game. It can basically destroy your club. Well, not destroy your club, but it could really set your club back if you ever get raided by a federal prohibition agent. So if you draw this during your event card phase, when you're drawing your event card, if the manager wants to, and if the manager has $2 in the club coffers, he could spend one action hiring the lookout. The other thing the club manager can do during his turn for one action is if you have enough money already in your coffers to purchase the upgrade that you're shooting for in that scenario, you can go ahead and discard the money that you have in your club coffers to purchase that upgrade. The upgrade would move to its particular station that it's aligned to. In this case, this upgrade aligns to the band, and then you can start utilizing that particular upgrade right then and there. Alright, so after the manager has resolved or drawn and resolved the event card, done 2 of his actions, the last part of the manager's turn is you will look down at the very bottom of the event card. You'll notice that there's a number of fedoras. The number of fedoras will vary anywhere from 1 to 5. You see, every event card's got a different number of fedoras down at the bottom. You will look at the number of fedoras that's at the bottom of the event card, and you will inform the doorman to put that many new patrons from the patron deck into the line out at the door. So you will always have 1 to 5 new patrons being added to the door queue at the end of every turn, or at the end of resolving the at the end of the manager's action turn. I'm sorry, got a little tongue twisted there because I was trying to think of what we were going to introduce next, which are some of the special rules for the manager station. So first, let's go over the manager nuisance card. So this is a patron that could be in the patron deck and pop up, and this is the nuisance to the manager. You can easily identify him by the little desk lamp icon at the bottom right hand of his card, which matches the desk lamp icon on the manager player mat. And this is basically the banker that comes into the Opulent every now and then to check up on his investment. He fronted a little of the money to get the Opulent going, and every now and then he pops in to see how his investment's doing. The banker, when he is at the club, the manager must do specific things depending on where the banker is at. When the banker is at the door, there's a certain thing that the manager has to do as one of his actions at the door when the banker's there. The same is to be said for the band and the bar. And then the banker actually comes into the manager office to check the books. You can check the rule book for the specifics, but just know that when the banker comes into play, it is the nuisance for the manager, and there are certain things that the manager has to do on his turn with his actions, depending on where the banker, Mr. William York, is in the club. The second special rule that we're going to talk about are the celebrities. The celebrities, again, are special patrons that have special rules, and each station has to do certain things when a celebrity is at their particular station. For the manager, when a celebrity is at the club, he needs to pamper them in the VIP room, which is what this particular slot is cut out for. When a celebrity is in the VIP room, on the following turn, so let's say in turn 1, the manager decides, I'm going to send this celebrity to the VIP room. On the next turn, for a celebrity that's been in the VIP room, he will get to add 1 token. And then if he stays, or if she stays in the VIP room until the manager's next turn, you get to add another token. And you can continue adding tokens until you get up to the maximum number of stars that you have. So for example, this is a 3-star celebrity. So this celebrity could accumulate up to 3 tokens. Once the 3 tokens are all accumulated, then the manager would send the celebrity out of the VIP room and on to the next station, and then each particular station, the bartender and the doorman, the band, would have specific rules on how they have to take care of the celebrity. If the manager wanted to, he could release the celebrity after she only accumulates 2 tokens or 1 token, just depending on how much catering and pampering he wanted to do to the celebrity while he or she is in the VIP room. And then lastly, let's go over, there's a lot of different events that can happen at the Opulent, and for some of the special ones, there's actually an explanation in the back of the rulebook explaining how each particular event card works. So if you want to, again, feel free to download the rules that's on the Kickstarter page and look at some of the different event cards. I think it's more towards the back of the rulebook. But for now, I'm just going to go over the one major event card that comes into play, which is prohibition agents. This is the main obstacle of having a speakeasy in the 1920s. Prohibition agents were tasked with basically raiding speakeasies and trying to shut them down. So if a prohibition agent card comes into play, there is a certain percentage of a chance that the club could be raided. If the club is raided, any money that the club has gained up to that point, any money that's in the club coffers, is confiscated. Any alcohol at the bar, so your whiskey and your beer resources, are discarded. All of the patrons that are in the club are arrested. All of their tokens are discarded, and all of those patrons are discarded as well. Now keep in mind, the patrons that are arrested are only patrons that are in the club. So that would be patrons that are at the VIP room for the manager, patrons that are at the bar, patrons that are at the band. The patrons that are at the doorman station in line, they are technically not considered to be in the club. So they can just scatter when the feds show up and then assemble back in line after the feds leave. So if your club is raided, your money's discarded, all of your liquor is discarded, all of the patrons in the club get arrested. Now, how do we determine if your club is raided or not? Feel free to, again, look at the rule book, but in short, the chance will be a number between 1 and 5, depending on two factors: how much money the club has and how much prestige the club has. And you remember, again, prestige is the number of stars that you have on purchased upgrades and staff members that you've purchased. So let's say you had these 2 structural upgrades and you had these 2 staff members hired. You are actually a 2.5 star club. So you would take that number and add that to another number, which will fall depending on how much money your club has. There will be a chart on the back of the rule book that will show you this is your risk factor or your chance of getting raided. You will roll that D10, and if it falls within that range, your club is raided. Your money, your alcohol, and your clients are all gone. Now, the one thing that the manager can do is if he ever draws a federal prohibition agent, and if you have a lookout that is actually been hired by the club to warn you guys ahead of time of when a federal prohibition agent is in the area, if you ever draw a federal prohibition agent card and you have a hired lookout, you can discard that lookout to offset the prohibition agent, and I mean offset as far as not having to roll to see if you get raided. Not offset as in, okay, we're going to roll, oh crap, we got raided, okay, now we're going to use him to offset it. It doesn't work like that. You would have to use your lookout to basically get rid of the prohibition agent so that you do not have to roll. And that is a short summary of the manager station. I think there's 1 or 2 other couple little things, but that's the core of how the manager station works. I think we've kind of gone over a good bit of how all of the stations work. We might have missed 1 or 2 little things here, some little minor rules, some other little things that the stations can do. We just wanted to go over what a core basic turn looks like. Some of the little intricacies, there might be 1 or 2 other little ones that I think are in there. Again, feel free to just download the rule book and give it a look over. If you have any questions about the rules or how anything works in specific, feel free to just send a comment to us on the campaign page, or send an in-mail using the Kickstarter mail system over to us, and we'll try to answer that for you as soon as we can.